So, welcome. I'm Magdalena Markowska and I'm a researcher at the Jönköping International Business School, part of the Jönköping University in Sweden. I'm also the Swedish representative in a big pan-Scandinavian research project, Explore. In my work, I both teach and research about entrepreneurship, and in particular, I focus on mechanisms and processes that influence entrepreneurial action.
As you mentioned, you worked with the Explore project. Can you describe a bit the project and how it is connected to the new Nordic Food program?
The Explore project is actually part of the big program that has been developed by the Nordic Councils of Ministers. The new Nordic Food program actually supports development of innovative and competitive sectors in the industry that actually focus on raw materials, ingredients, as well as traditions inherent in Scandinavia. How Explore fits with this agenda is actually very straightforward in terms that Explore we have looked at 11 cases, 11 high-quality rural restaurants, and we have looked at how they work with local produce, how they use local ingredients, how they cooperate with their local suppliers, and also what is the impact of their activity on their region where they exist.
Why the project was started and what Explore stands for?
Explore stands for experiencing local resources in Nordic countries. So the project has focused really on what the entrepreneurs do with the resources, and here actually we have realized that there are a number of challenges that are linked to using the local produce. Some of the challenges are linked to uneven quality of the produce, meaning that some of the producers and suppliers are not able to deliver constantly very high quality of their produce. What we also realized was that quite often what the restaurants are interested in is a uniqueness of the local produce, and often suppliers did not perceive these characteristics as critical for them. However, it has been very critical for the restaurateurs who wanted to differentiate their businesses from other restaurants.
You worked with 11 restaurants. Could you say some words about the restaurants as well?
The restaurants are located in 4 Scandinavian countries. We have 4 cases in Norway, 2 cases in Sweden, 2 cases in Iceland, and 3 cases in Finland. We have selected the cases based on 3 criteria. First of all, they had to be located outside of the town, so they had to be located in a rural surroundings. The second part was that they had to focus at least partially in using local ingredients and local produce. And thirdly, we use a bit more subjective measure of high quality restaurant. And this is subjective in terms that not in all 4 countries we have more objectified criteria to select. For instance, in Sweden we have White Guide, which is a guide of the best restaurants in the country. However, in none of the other 3 countries there is such guide. So we have used perceptions of key informants to determine which restaurants could be perceived as high quality restaurants.
Talking about challenges the restaurants face, could you name very concretely the biggest ones?
Clearly, the biggest challenge has been the seasonality of demand and supply, both in terms of customers coming to the restaurants as well as produce available to the restaurateurs. Closely linked with that challenge is actually the challenge of supplier infrastructure, meaning that some of the suppliers do not have quality assurance systems in place, which results in delivering different value and different quality of produce, which is critically important for the restaurants. A third challenge that we have identified and is closely linked to the offering as such is actually the challenge of creating uniqueness to the location. And as you can see, rural locations as such are not necessarily the most unique places. So often there has to be some initiative from within the community and the restaurateurs and the suppliers to create some kind of destination and attraction in the location, so that customers are willing to come and there is a value added in the produce being offered. And fourth challenge, closely linked with the third one, is actually creating and linking mechanism of promotion. And we have seen that the cases who have been able to bring together different actors in the local arena, they have been more successful in attracting more customers and also creating bigger demand for their produce, both in terms of restaurant customers as well as customers to the products of the suppliers. And finally, the final challenge that we have identified is that, again, because we are talking about rural locations, what has been missing and in some cases has been helpful where it has been developed are the complementary services and experiences. So being able to attract the customers not only to the restaurant, but maybe also to a museum, or maybe to spend a weekend and play golf, or maybe a complementary service of being able to go fish and hunt the produce they would later eat. So those are the 5 challenges that we have identified, and we think they are really critical for the restaurants if they want to remain competitive on the market and attract customers in the future.
Can you give some examples about the cooperation between suppliers and restaurants?
For example, if we speak about Iceland, one of the cases there has started to cooperate really closely with their meat supplier, because the quality of the meat was not even, especially in the beginning phases. So what has happened is that they have worked very closely. The entrepreneur, the restaurateur, has helped develop this meat supplier a mechanism and quality assurance system that allowed for the meat to be of constant quality. What it meant was that the entrepreneur was testing himself together with the company different production methods, and as a result this supplier was able to develop a system that is now one of the best in the country and allows actually traceability of the sources of each piece of meat, which means that no matter whether the meat comes to the restaurants or goes to any other store, if a customer is interested, there is a possibility to actually trace back to the farm and farmer from which this piece of meat came, how old the cow or sheep was.
So how have the restaurants and the suppliers solved this problem that to attract more people all year round?
Among our 11 cases, we have seen different mechanisms of dealing with this situation. While some restaurants define local in very narrow terms, some define it in a bit broader terms. And we have also seen that those who define a locality in very narrow terms are actually becoming more flexible. and they make a huge point, and they make it to their emphasis that the produce is local, and you can only eat these ingredients within given seasons. But entrepreneurs are very creative in ways of how they can solve the problem. So they work together with the suppliers on different preservation methods, for instance, different ways of smoking meats and fish. Also preservation of berries and other fruits and vegetables, so that the produce can be preserved and served also outside of the season. The restaurateurs have also thought about ways how to differentiate, how to introduce more revenue streams to their businesses. And some of them have been able to, for instance, either offer some kind of historic trips to suppliers, where the customer can travel and learn about the different ingredients being served and how they are produced or farmed.